1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 8.
Welcome to NHL Quick Hits. I'm David Crosby here with Steele Roden. Wednesday's game between the Rangers and Flyers got out of hand quickly. New York went up 2-0 in the first period before exploding for 7 more goals in the second and shutting out the Flyers 9-0. The Rangers scored 9 times in the first 2 frames for just the second time in franchise history. And to make things even wilder, none of the Rangers' regular coaching staff was behind the bench due to COVID protocols. They were replaced by Hartford head coach Chris Knobloch, assistant Gord Murphy, and assistant general manager Chris Drury. But let's get back to the Flyers first, Steele. Your preseason pick to win the East Division. After a pretty hot start, this loss is the lowest point in a major rut, having now lost 5 of their last 7 games and falling out of a playoff spot. What's wrong with the Flyers right now?
Well, I think we can all agree that they don't have the best defensive core, probably not even a top 10 or top 15 at that. But the problem right now is their goaltending. And we can all agree that Brian Elliott is not made to be a starting goaltender, yet he's played 4 less games than Carter Hart so far this season. So that can tell us how bad Carter Hart's been playing this season. Carter Hart has either started or had to come in relief of Brian Elliott in those last 7 games, and he has an .822 save percentage in those games. 21 goals against on 143 shots in that time. That is just unacceptable and not good for your starting goaltender, who we can all agree with, again, was lights out and a complete stud last year for the Flyers. So obviously, when you have to go and rely on your backup goaltender as much as the Flyers have this year, and Elliott, who has not been great at times as well, it's just been a struggle in the crease for the Flyers this year, and that's been their biggest problem. And I'm really surprised at how terrible Carter Hart's been this year.
I'm really surprised at that too. And I know Philadelphia's defense is young, but I actually like their core. I think they have some promising pieces there, and I don't really understand what's going on. And obviously, if you're a Flyers fan, you're not going to want to go back and watch this game. But if you have 5 or 6 minutes to watch the highlights from this, just look at how many times there were 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, cross-crease passes. Like, the Rangers just had so many point-blank opportunities. I find it hard to even blame the goalies last night. It was that bad. But let's talk about the Rangers, because it's a little bit of a happier subject. That was a huge win for them. Obviously, they're most impressive of the season, but they're still 3 points back of the Flyers in 6th place in the East Division. Do you think this will be a turning point in their season?
I think it is a turning point for them in the season so far. And like you said, they're only 3 points back of the Flyers, but they're 6 points back of the Bruins, who are in 4th place right now. And the Rangers are getting hot right now at a time where the Bruins and Flyers have slowed down. The Bruins are 4-4-2 in their last 10 games, and obviously, as we know, the Flyers are 2-5 in their last 7. So I think they're getting hot at the right time and they're catching these teams in a little bit of a slump. So it's definitely a turning point. But again, you still have to compete with the Islanders, the Capitals, the Penguins, and the Bruins and Flyers again. So this is the toughest division, like we've mentioned in the past. Even though they're getting on a hot streak right now, you still have to compete against these top 5 teams, top 4 teams, if you will. And it might be hard to catch up to those teams, even though they're still 6 points behind.
Well, the other big winner was Mika Zibanejad, who had a natural hat trick and 3 more assists in the second period, topping 400 career points. Zibanejad is just the second player in NHL history to score 6 points in a single period. Funny enough, he joined Brian Trottier, who did so in 1978 for the Islanders against the Rangers. Now, it's not a stretch to say that Zibanejad has had the most disappointing performance compared to expectations of almost any player in the league so far this season. He had 11 points in the 27 games before last night. So that's more than a third of his points came in one period last night for this entire season. Do you think that offensive explosion could spark a turnaround for him that could last the rest of the season?
Again, yes, I think it is a turning point for Mika Zibanejad. That's why he was named captain, because they believe in this guy. And we know what he can do already. He's coming off of back-to-back seasons where he had 74 points 2 seasons ago and 75 points last season. He would have had more if A, he wasn't injured, and B, the season wasn't shortened because of COVID protocol. So we know what this guy can do. It's unlikely that he goes and gets 6 points in a period or 6 points in a game again this season, but he needs to continue this and take this momentum into the weekend because they have back-to-back games against the Washington Capitals.
Let's move over to the Buffalo Sabres now. And after firing former head coach Ralph Krueger after the team's 12th straight loss, general manager Kevin Adams was quoted as saying, "Buffalo is open to anything and everything right now, including trading Taylor Hall, who is on a 1-year deal." Steele, what's the best landing spot for Hall?
Well, I actually listed 5 teams here, and one of them, all 5 of them are the Columbus Blue Jackets, Carolina Hurricanes, Anaheim Ducks, Colorado Avalanche, and New York Islanders. Now, obviously, there was discussion last year about Taylor Hall going to the Colorado Avalanche, and I think that would be a great fit for the Avalanche this time before the trade deadline. They have a ton of cap space because of their long-term injured reserve players that they have there so far. Both the Islanders and Avalanche have about just over $8 million in cap space to work with because obviously Anders Lee just went down as well for the Islanders. So there's a lot of money to work there for both those teams. And they have a lot of players, prospects, and draft picks that they can use in a team that the Buffalo to provide to a Buffalo Sabres team that needs everything. You can go after a guy like Pavel Francouz or Hunter Miska right now on the Colorado Avalanche. They have a ton of prospects, couple picks as well. If you're the Buffalo Sabres and you're going to trade Taylor Hall, you need to make sure you're getting a number 1 starting goaltender right now. That is your number 1 focus, in my opinion. That's been the problem for the last 5 years. They need to address the situation, and if they're going to deal Taylor Hall, make sure you're getting a goaltender.
I really like the fit with the Islanders there. I think that's the team I would pick for him as well. Obviously, leading that division, like you mentioned, losing Anders Lee is such a huge blow. Hall could pretty much slide in right where Lee left off in that lineup. And don't forget that last season, the Islanders made one of the biggest trades, paying up for Jean-Gabriel Pageau. And I think they feel like they're one of the best teams in the league right now, and their window is right now. So I think those two match up really well as trading partners. But I don't think just trading Taylor Hall is going to be nearly enough for Buffalo. Like you said, they need pieces and help all over their lineup. Are there any other big names in Buffalo that you think they should put on the trade block?
I think the entire team except for Jack Eichel, but if it comes down to it, maybe you have to send Jack Eichel too. And the names that I listed on here were Rasmus Ristolainen, Rasmus Dahlin, and Sam Reinhart. And obviously there's been a lot of discussion about Sam Reinhart because of what he can do in front of the net. He's been great he's been their best player in the Sabres organization so far this year. But again, you have guys like Rasmus Dahlin who just haven't really clicked in that organization since being drafted by them just a couple of years ago. I think a new scenery might help him. And then he's still young. He was still a first round overall pick. You can get a lot back for a guy like Rasmus Dahlin and Rasmus Ristolainen. So again, if you're sending these guys out, make sure you're getting exactly what you need in return from those teams.
I'm definitely on board with Ristolainen, and I think although it would hurt to trade Reinhart, I don't think his value has ever been higher than it is right now. You could probably get a ton back for a team who looks at him, who said he could not only help us this year, but long term. But if I'm the Buffalo Sabres, I am not trading Jack Eichel, and I am not trading Rasmus Dahlin. They're both so good and so young that you would just have to blow me away with an offer that I don't even think we've seen an offer that good happen anywhere close in the modern era. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on Buffalo, who should be one of the few sellers in the NHL ahead of the trade deadline. But that's going to do it for our episode today. I'm David Crosby. That's Steele Roden. And thanks for tuning in to NHL Quick Hits.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.